Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Gonzo Ewok channel with me Gonzo,
me Ewok,
for a Gonzo Ewok podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these.
It has been. We initially started doing them almost every week, and then we rapidly found that there wasn't really enough going on in the gaming world. Well, that's probably not true, but there wasn't enough that we were keeping up on
just
in the
to
gaming
kind of casually, just kind of drifting over a few headlines and what have you. But we decided, since we've got a little bit of extra time today doing recording, just recording an episode of Geordie's Space Program, and figured we're about due to do a podcast. If you're new to them, thank you very much for listening. If you're an existing listener of the podcasts,
welcome back.
Welcome back. You know the drill. We're going to kind of just talk a little bit in your ears while you're doing other things.
Unscripted verbal diarrhea.
Exactly. We're very good at that.
Well,
we're doing it.
We do it.
Yeah, we're doing it a lot.
We do it. As you just mentioned, Gonzo, we are coming right off the back of the last Geordie Space Program recording, which is episode 6. No spoilers, because I imagine this will be up before it.
It's a good one. It's worth keeping an eye out.
As a little hint, the episode title is Penny Creon Goes to Minmus.
Make that what you will.
Make of that what you will. It's an adventure.
Aye. So
we've got a little list of stuff there, Gonzo. We've got a couple of topics that we want to talk about. Which one would you like to tackle first?
I think probably let's start with something fairly light, fairly easy. It's top of the list as we've scribbled down my notes here about stuff to talk about. Batman.
Well, specifically Batman games,
yeah.
And the upcoming Arkham Knight, which I believe, again, this is just us not doing our research. I think it's out around about the 20th of June,
soon.
Possibly a little bit later.
Next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Is it on your radar?
You caught us having a swig of beer.
Caught you having a swig of beer.
Not particularly. I was a bit late to the party. I remember you and one of our mutual friends played the original. That was Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum was the first one in the series. Yeah,
you guys had played that, and then it was about 6 months later. You were talking about it, and it had totally passed me by.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Oh, I'll check that out," and I managed to pick it up fairly cheap. Really enjoyed it. Played the next, and the first the Warner Brothers release, when Warner Brothers developed the last one, was at Arkham City.
No. So Rocksteady were the original developers, and they did Arkham Asylum, and then they came back and did Arkham City.
Right.
Warner Brothers published both of those games.
I played both of them and really enjoyed them.
So they were Rocksteady developed and Warner published. The third game in the series, which was Arkham Origins,
that's right.
That was Warner Brothers developed. That's when Rocksteady didn't do that one, and Warner Brothers picked it up. I mean, they own the franchise. They got their development team involved. They did that one.
Yeah, and I played it, and you know what? It wasn't bad. And it's something that we were kind of touched on just before we started recording. Just the idea that it felt like it was just more of the same. Mm-hmm. And don't get us wrong, more of the same is good in some respects, because what was the same, that kind of the meat of the game, the gameplay, the presentation, that was still really good. I just felt as though there wasn't really... It felt like it was kind of like just a game by the numbers. Like, we'll do this, we'll do that. It felt very kind of predictable and a bit kind of stale, you know? Like, looked good, played well, but didn't really grab us like the first two did.
I would definitely agree with that. Arkham Asylum, I thought, was outstanding. It really gripped me from start to finish. It was one of those games I bought and then, clocked in just 2 or 3 sittings
as soon as you start playing,
it down.
You feel like Batman, which is awesome.
Arkham City even more so.
The same but much bigger environment.
Exactly, yeah. I thought it might suffer, because I thought the linear elements of Arkham Asylum and going down a specific path actually helped the game. And I was a little concerned that moving it into an open world environment would
really
detract
strong
from
narrative, give it really good levels. The level design really kind of felt as though you're being pulled through the game. It was a good feel.
Arkham City delivered. Even though I wasn't expecting it to be as good, it was better in almost every respect.
Yeah.
I didn't go out all crazy doing all the Riddler challenges and doing all the collectibles.
I did
stuff
quite
a
few of the side quests, but not everything, because it's like completionists wet dream basically. If you're into that kind of gotta clock every single thing.
Oh yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
of stuff to do there.
And if you like doing that, fair play to you. But I just do not have the patience. I'm more of a story driven kind of guy. I like to go through the story.
For me, it's time. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff, but when can I find 48 hours to spend playing it?
However, I do like leveling up. and getting experience and stuff. And having that open world environment was great for just cruising around, finding gangs of thugs, and getting into a scrap.
Yeah, oh, there's a mugging going on. I'll go and kick the shit out.
Because the combat element in it was fantastic. I mean, the stealth element was brilliant as well. It's one of the things I liked about all of the games, in that it was so satisfying doing the stealth element, but if you cocked up and you ended up in an all-out brawl, that was just as fun.
Yeah, you can fight
and it was really good, sort of stringing out combos. What you said about the Warner Brothers developed one Origins, though, it did ring true to me that it didn't grip me in the way that the others did. And I couldn't turn around and say that I thought it was a bad game. That's not true. I thought it was a good game, but it wasn't enough to keep me all the way through.
Yeah.
And I probably did about 3/4 of the story and then moved on. And haven't really regretted the fact that I didn't complete it.
I mean, it ended well from memory.
I mean,
I think for me it started fairly strong, and then a lot of the mid-game part started just feeling a bit kind of like grindy and a bit kind of where's this going, and then
which is probably when I tailed off.
And it picked up a little bit from memory anyway. And it was a while back since I played it, but it picked up towards like the sort of the third act, so to speak, as you started getting towards those last few missions. It got a little bit more interesting.
It was always going to be difficult for a different developer picking up a game that was established as a real sort of leader in the genre.
Not if you don't change much of it, though.
Well, that's exactly why I can see why they followed that path of not. I mean, they changed a few things, they introduced a few more gadgets, but they didn't really go overboard and try to innovate too much, which probably would have backfired. But I'm excited to see that Rocksteady are back in the developer's shoes for the latest one.
The next one should hopefully be a bit of a return to form, so I'm excited to see what they're doing. But again, it's probably because that kind of, not mediocre, but you know what I mean, that kind of run-of-the-mill nature of the last one, the announcement of this one coming out, I didn't really pay much attention to it, and I haven't really sort of chased it up. I don't know exactly what's known. I assume Hype Train will be fairly strong for it now, or certainly the marketing boards will be in gear because it's only a couple of weeks.
It probably is, and I've been ignoring it because I didn't realise that Rocksteady had returned to it until today, and that's what immediately put it back on my radar. I was quite willing to let it pass by and not worry too much about it, but knowing that Rocksteady are back, I'm expecting them to step it up again. And I'm trying not to denigrate the Warner Brothers one because it was a good game. It wasn't a great game, but it was a good game. And some of the stuff that they did do, Rocksteady might be able to use and implement into their new game, and take the best of their development and the best of Warner Brothers development and really tie it together and come up with something brilliant.
For me personally, what will probably happen, I'll not be picking it up. It's not like I'm going to pre-order. I'm not going to buy it sort of early days. I'll probably wait till, I'd assume it'll probably get a few quid knocked off in the winter sale.
Well, there's very few games that are buying out released at the moment.
It's not at the point where I'm going to kind of divert attention towards getting my hands on it, put it that way, and that's not to say it's going to be bad. It's just, I'll get to it when I get to it. It'll be a good game that if I'm off work over the Christmas time and it comes up in the sale, I'll pick it up between Christmas and the New Year. If I get a bit of time to do a bit of gaming, I'll probably sink a day into it there and kind of work my way through it, and I'll have a thoroughly good time while I do that. But it's not something that I'm going to like pick up and say, I'm going to be playing this over the summer or what have you. I'll get around to it when I can, really.
Yeah, I suppose I could always go back to Origins and just finish it up.
Yeah, it's worth doing. I mean, it's it ended sort of quite well from memory. It's worth doing.
Well, we're only 8 minutes in. I think we've run out of stuff to talk about on Arkham Knight.
The thing is, unless we actually have bothered to go and look to see what's actually new or different about Arkham Knight, we don't really have
I don't want it to be that new or different. I want it to be a return to form from Arkham City. Stick a new story in it, put a fresh coat of paint on it.
Next gen graphics and inverted
I'll be
commas.
well happy about it.
Aye.
I mean, that will be interesting to see because I thought Batman was an amazing looking game. I thought they really sort of nailed the dark, gritty kind of atmosphere of like Batman as a. I hesitate to say hero because he is a hero, but he's got the dark side to him.
It's that kind of like that hero that people just kind of have, but they're a bit frightened of them in their own right, sort of thing.
I think it's one of the appealing things about the Batman character is that although he's a guy who's out there to do good, he's a vigilante. He's got the dark side. He's not necessarily always on the side of the police.
I can imagine
he's a rough, tough. World's best detective who's not afraid to bend the rules to get results.
Isn't that what do you call him from the Flash show?
Or Monk.
Monk? No, not
No,
no,
it was Monk. I'm sure.
Was it Monk? Monk's the dude.
Was it? No, it was Monkfish.
Monkfish. Monk is the dude with OCD.
Yeah,
who has to go around with all these weird quirks.
Yeah, there was the character from the Fast Show who was always a rough, tough something who's not afraid to bend the rules to get results. In the first sketch, he was a detective. Then there was Monkfish DI, Monkfish MD.
Mate, it's a cup of tea, love. Put your knickers on.
Put your knickers on and get a cup of tea.
Aye. But yeah, personally, I think, if it's one of the things that I can imagine could be quite interesting would be PCs are more powerful now, and moving into some of the next gen stuff, potentially having way bigger fight scenes. You've got 50 guys piling on top of you, you're wading your way through them, making use of increased processing power from some of the newer hardware. I think that would be interesting to see, making it bigger, just ramping that up. That would be quite cool.
It could be, yeah.
So I think that's hopefully something. If without having any kind of real knowledge about it, I'd like to see some huge fights. Everybody enjoys the fights when you've got 20 guys all standing around trying to beat the shit out of you.
So make it 40.
Make it 40. Make it 40, make it 50, and give them more tools to deal with them.
Bigger is better.
Yeah, totally, man.
Well, speaking of bigger is better, that's actually a decent segue in the
penis
next
enlargement, our next segment.
Penis enlargement, our next segment. This miracle pill can help you grow 10 inches in 2 weeks.
People will be listening like, this is a weird podcast. how do you segue from Batman to penis?
Well, what you've actually got written down on the list there is PC Master Race.
Yeah. Now, qualifier. We're going to talk PCs here. While I'm much more of a PC gamer than a console gamer, I don't call people who play consoles console peasants, and I don't subscribe to this master race talk.
No.
I don't like it. I think it's, again, using all those kind of cliche terms, it's fanboyism, but it's the language of exclusion rather than inclusion. Gaming's meant to be a fun hobby. We're not meant to look down on people that have got different views upon themselves, and I think there's way too much of that.
Oh, Christ, mate, you're opening up a can of worms.
No, but there's way too... I just want to put it out, there's way too much of that goes on in gaming and gaming culture, as they call it, and I'd say I'm probably on the fringes of it, because...
I think there's no more pathetic term than somebody saying, you're not a real gamer.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I remember as a kid...
Get over yourself.
When we were kids, it was like punks and goths, and there was that saying like, oh, this is so goth, this is so punk. It's like, get out of your fucking self, man. I don't like that kind of like, ooh, I'm into this in this way, and that makes me somehow superior or more, or possessing of more integrity than you because you like something different. Like, I just don't like the term. So even though I've wrote it down, it's very much like tongue-in-cheek. What we're really here to talk about is PC enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
More than anything.
And we are PC enthusiasts.
Completely, yeah.
But in the same vein, like you're saying, last generation, we both had Xbox 360s and PlayStation 4s. I had a Wii.
Oh, PS3s.
Sorry, PS3s. This generation, we've got PS4s. We've got the consoles. We like our console games. We can't miss out on those exclusive titles.
Aye. Well, for me, I can't miss out on some of those dodgy sports games that
I'm just thinking about what I've got in my house. I've got an original Xbox, I've got an Xbox 360, I've got 2 PlayStation 3s, 2 PlayStation 2s, PS Vita, PSP, Game Boy Advance buried away somewhere, DS, 3DS, yeah, far too much stuff. Laptop, 2 PCs. See, 2.5 PCs.
I travel light. I've got me nice powerful PC that we're recording on now as well, a PC that will mount the world. I've got my PS4, me Xbox 360 has a dodgy disk drive, but that's in a drawer somewhere, and I've still got my PS3, but I'm thinking about what to do with that. It's probably going to end up getting done here to one of the neighbours' kids, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean,
what am I going to do with it?
You're not getting much for trading them in these days, will you?
It's more hassle. It means I've got to go to the shop and take it down, and they've got to look at it. Whereas I can just go next door and be like, "Hey, Billy, you want a PS3? All right, now chuck it out." That's it, and they can do what they like with it. I'm not really fussed.
Well,
but we're not even on topic yet.
We're not even on topic. Talk us through your rig then, because you've got a new rig recently. You've mentioned it before many times because you love it. But tell us what's in it.
6 months old now. It was 28th of December. Previously, I was using a quad core setup.
You were using an old AMD quad core, weren't you?
No, it was Intel. It was a Q660. Possibly. Anyway, I forget what it was, or an 8800 or something like that. It wasn't bad.
It was the generation before the sort of Sandy Bridge processors?
Yeah. It was a hand-me-down actually. I had a computer prior to that I bought from Dell, I think, just an off-the-shelf number, and it was my mother's PC. She was moving abroad, her and my dad. you know, the liveaboard now, and so as a result, she was getting rid of her desktop. She wanted a laptop because it was way easier to cart backwards and forwards the drive abroad when they're shipping out. And so she'd said, well, do you want this? Otherwise it's going to go on the scrap heap. It was slightly better than the machine that I had at the time. I had a slightly better graphics card than what was in there. That was a 5450 originally, and then I upgraded that. It was 7550, I think, a bit later on, just because it was slightly more powerful and it would fit on the motherboard.
You were always a Radeon man.
Yeah,
I was always a GeForce man, and you were always a Radeon guy.
I've swapped this time. So I went to, it was PC Specialist that I used. I could have bought the parts way cheaper and built it myself, but what I liked was the fact that it would be built properly. So cable management and actually having things properly taken care of. And I thought, you know what, I'd pay the extra so I don't have to faff on with it.
PC Specialist, I used them by my... Well, I was about to say my last PC. It's the same PC mostly.
But you've got some upgrades.
I've got some upgrades, right? But I bought mine from PC Specialist, and you know what? I didn't find them that overpriced. They were quite reasonable in terms of the individual component part. Yes, you do pay a bit extra because you're getting them to build it, but if you're buying an entire brand new system, you may as well fork out the extra bit just to get somebody to build it.
I'll be upfront with mine. It cost us about 1,600 quid all in. So, I mean, it's, you know, and this was the thought. Originally, I was like, I could get a credit card and I could just put it on a credit card and spend the next year paying it off. And then I checked my bank balance, and actually I'd been quite frugal in the months running up to Christmas. Spent a bit on friends and family for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't put myself in that much debt if I just bought the bastard.
Well, you must have been in like an area of low spending because you saved up for your wedding for a long time. Yeah. So you must have come out the other side of the wedding, and you were already in that mindset of this is how much I spend.
We got married in August, and then the next 4 months I was still saving as though I was paying for a wedding in a couple of months. But
it got you that.
We're beating around the bush anyway. It's an i7 4790, I think. It's the Devil's Canyon chip. Which runs standard at 4 gigahertz.
Oh, nice.
There's lots of room for overclocking there as well, which is a very nice little chip. I've got a GTX 980 in there. I think it's only a palette model, but I didn't have any kind of choice with that. It's what came on the machine. I know some people are like, budget this, that, the other. Actually comes out quite well in terms of like benchmarking, and I haven't had a single issue with it. Nice and quiet. And I've checked the thing over. It's good build quality. 16 gig of RAM in there. I think that's HyperX RAM, DDR3. Bought it not long before DDR4 RAM became a bit more commonplace. But, you know, that's doing the trick nicely for us. Nearly went for 32, and I thought, you know what, stick with 16.
16 will do you for a fair few years, I would imagine.
It's only got a 2 terabyte hard drive in, and then it's got a small SSD that just holds me Windows boot up.
I am jealous when you turn your computer on and you boot up in seconds.
Yeah, I think it's about 6 seconds until it's up and running, and that's very nice to have, you know. And then it sits in this massive, monstrous Stormtrooper case by Cooler Master, and then like I haven't went for any kind of stock fans or anything. There's a stock fan in the roof of this, a 200mm fan, which I need to flip round because basically everything is pulling air in. You sit next to the machine when it's working under full load, and it makes you cold because it's just drawing cold air across you. But I want to flip the fan around in the top to make it an exhaust. At the minute it's just using the case fan at the back as an exhaust, and I think it will probably...
So you're just pulling everything in into a vortex of heat in the middle at the moment.
Yeah, that's just piling the heat in. And I mean, it's a lovely system. It's quiet, although it's a bit rickety. I think the top fan, when it's first getting started, it sounds a bit crunchy. I don't think the bearings are right on that. And I probably could get it done under warranty, but if I'm going to flip the fan around, I'd rather just spend 30 quid and get a nice new 200mm fan, flip it around and bung that in. So that's probably something that I'll do maybe in time for the LAN, if I can get my hands on it, which is in a couple of weeks' time, but might just leave it. It just means for the first couple of minutes people are going to have to put earplugs in while the thing starts. But you can hear it now, we're sitting right next to it. It's nice and quiet.
It's not that bad at all.
It comes in about 19-20 decibels when it's under full load, which is quiet. So that's nice. And in terms of temperature, even under full load, it can get up towards 50, but generally it sits here at about 20 to 22 degrees.
Oh, that's lovely.
Aye. So it's doing the trick exactly as it's sitting, you know. It's only got, I think, 650 watt power supply in there. Everybody was saying, oh no, you'll need 950, 1,000 watts in that. Bullshit. I've double checked the draw on this thing. Under full load, you're lucky if it's pulling 400 watts. I would have been fine with a 450 watt.
See, a lot of people say, oh, you need to get like a bigger PSU so you've got some overhead room for when you do your upgrades, but PSUs aren't expensive. So if it does come to a time where you want to do your overheads, just buy a new one.
I've set 3 on fire. I know how expensive they are, because the amount of times I've had to take the old smoking one out, throw it away, and then drive myself down to PC World and buy myself a new one. That was the old machine. I managed to blow one by accident because it had a variable voltage switch on the back that I hit by accident when I was shifting it, and it was on, and that exploded, a little mushroom cloud. Second one, I'd noticed for a few days the room smelt a bit smoky, but couldn't quite put my finger on why. And then I realised it was the PC just silently smouldering in the background.
Yeah, I've got a little crappy X-Office refurb that I've got upstairs in the bedroom, which I basically use to stream media to. And I haven't been able to use that because I've noticed it starts making a very staticky, crackly noise from the PSU when it's turned on, and that can't be healthy for anything.
You don't want to fall asleep with that burning
absolutely
next
not.
to your pillows.
The PSU on my old Dell system, which is about 10 years old now, which was my first foray into modern PC gaming. Was into it as a kid for a little bit. Got back into it again about 10 years ago with that crappy little Dell Pentium 2 system. The PSU's gone in that. It turns itself off.
Yeah.
It keeps on losing power about every 5 minutes or so. Freaked me out for a couple of days because the PC was just turning itself off and on and off and on, and I didn't know what was going on, so I had to unplug it.
It means it's haunted.
It's haunted.
Possessed by demons.
Well, your system puts mine to shame. It really does.
And don't get us wrong, like, this is powerful. It's not the most powerful system on the planet. I'm sure when we go to the land, there's some people who have stuff that puts mine to shame.
There's some real PC enthusiasts there who will laugh at that.
But that's
with that Titans in and shit like that.
That goes back to my point though as well. It's that idea of, oh, look at this, look at my big E-penis.
I'm just laughing. The people at the LAN do have ridiculous stuff, but I don't think they're
no, it's that idea. It's like you saying you're about to read off your specs, and it's the idea that I would scoff at that and go, oh well, I would get an extra 10 frames on Attila under maximum settings than you would, so that makes me somehow more validated than you as a human. Anyway, enough of that. Do you want to, in a non-judgmental environment, explain what you've been doing with your PC?
Yeah, well, the majority of my PC is about 5 years old. I can still remember the price I paid for it because it's a very good price. It's £1,343.43.
I remember when you got that thing. You bought it. Wasn't it my house? Oh, you were looking at the specs, I think, at my house maybe before you bought it.
Though that was the old Dell.
Was that the old Dell?
That was the old Dell. That was 10 years ago.
Christ.
That was when we're still living.
Jesus, 10 years.
Yeah.
Where does time? We're losing life here.
I think I bought this one about 5 years ago.
I was well jealous when you got it as well. I remember.
So i7 had just come out then. There was only one model of i7 at the time, and it wasn't really stacking up hugely over the i5 in terms of power and efficiency.
But first gen,
but it was a hell of a lot pricier, so I ended up going for an i5. So I've got an i5 2500, and that's quad core 3.3 gigahertz, I believe.
Right.
8 gigabytes of RAM. One of my limitations is that my motherboard only has 2 RAM slots on it.
Oh, you need the big stick.
So if I wanted to upgrade the RAM, I'd have to get 2 8 gigabyte DDR3 sticks. In theory, it's compatible with up to 32 gig. But the sticks are quite expensive. They're coming down a bit now. I've noticed that the 8 gigabyte sticks...
RAM prices, it's something to keep your eyes on because they fluctuate quite a bit.
Well, the 8 gigabyte sticks are now starting to become more popularised. Up until relatively recently, it seemed that 4 gigs or combinations of 4 gigs was the way to go. So I'm still rocking 8 at the minute. The graphics card that I got in it was a GTX 580, which was doing the job up until relatively recently when I started having some overheating problems, which I think is a combination of more taxing games and the fact that the card itself, it's getting a bit old and weary. I don't think it's weathered well over the last 5 years. So I decided to do a bit of an upgrade, and I decided that I didn't have enough money to upgrade everything at once, so the first thing I was going to do was upgrade the graphics card. So I bought myself a new GPU, bought it on Friday, and it arrived on Sunday, which was very nice. Amazon Super Saver delivery. Well, wanted $3.99 for first class, which wouldn't have come on Sunday, but I got free Super Saver and it came on Sunday. Fantastic. So it's still not as good as yours, mate. didn't want to spring the cash on a 980.
Aye.
So I got myself a 970.
And you know what? That's probably quite sensible. And also, I've just seen the 980 Ti has came out as well. The 980 Ti, which I'm now kind of like, oh, for fuck's sake! I've only held back for 6 months.
Well, it's always going to happen.
It is. It's what you do, isn't it? It's like, when do you hold back? It's like, first of all, the RAM with a DDR4, and then the 980 Ti. And I was like, you know what? An extra couple of £100 probably would have cost. That looks like a very tasty little graphics card as well. I mean, really, really like the look of it. But the thing is, if I was sensible, I nearly went for a 970 to knock about 100 odd quid off the price of what I was paying, and I just thought, you know what, while I'm taking the hit and I'm going to be poor in January, fuck it, get best I can, short of a Titan, which nearly would have doubled the price of the thing. You know, it would have put it well over £2,000.
And you probably would have needed a bigger power supply for that.
Yeah, well, for a Titan. But I mean, that's the thing. Longer term, this thing is ripe for when 980s come down. Get another 980, bang that in.
Do an SLI on it.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Longer term, that's probably the next step I would take. But that's still probably good couple of years off at least.
Well, that's going to do you for a long time.
Aye.
I think the 970 will do me for a fair few years, to be perfectly honest.
It's really good card. It comes out really well in all sorts of benchmarking tests. I did a good bit of shopping around when I was planning out what I wanted.
Yeah. Well, I did as well. You mentioned that you've got a palette card. You said, ooh, the budget. Mine's a palette card. It's there was the 970 palette Jetstream.
PC Master Race, people scoffing. Went, oh, what make a chip is this? And I was like, oh, it's palette. And they're like, this, that, the other. It's hardly any different to any others. And I know, if you've got like an Asus or you've got an MSI or something, nice gear, they look nice, but there's absolutely no wrong with this one that I've got in here. I tax it, put it through its paces, and it doesn't flacker, you know.
Well, I was checking stuff out when I was looking at what card I wanted to buy, and I kind of I'd seen the palette when I was shopping around, going for about 250 notes, and I disregarded it, thinking, ooh, budget model.
Aye. And
I was looking at the Gigabyte G1.
Aye.
Which is lovely. Looks really pretty. It's got 3 fans on it. Keep it nice and cool, you know. And that was going for about 289. You get it a little bit cheaper if you shop around a bit. But I was looking at the benchmarking on that, and I saw that the palette card was coming up comparable, and in most cases it was outdoing it ever so slightly. It does help that the palette Jetstream comes out the box overclocked.
Aye.
And you know, it was performing better. As a bonus, it was a little bit shorter because it's on a custom circuit board, which is good for my rig because I do have a smaller motherboard, and I didn't want to be sort of crowding stuff in. I wanted to be able to access all the ports and the RAM slots and things like that, so I ended up going on that one, and you know what, it's absolutely lovely. It's fantastic. It's so quiet as well.
Aye.
And the fans don't even kick in till it hits about 40-50 degrees.
Yeah, it's same with this one. I think this one needs to get over, I think it's about 55 to 60 when they kick in. So sometimes I can see them kind of going, because I mean they're lit up as well, you know, case fans, and all got LEDs on and what have you. The motherboard has like some sort of weird inlet. Sort of it's only a Z97 board, but it's doing the trick, and that's sort of quite nice. That's got some like inbuilt sort of lights. Almost looks like something out of Tron. Basically, you get these little orange lights kind of coming up.
Well, you've got all your lovely red lights on your PC.
It looks a bit evil, mine. I mean, with the Stormtrooper case and the red lights, it looks a bit angry.
I've got all the green lights on mine. Mine's the good guy one.
Exactly, the Skywalker of the piece.
Absolutely. The case is new as well. That was just my vanity purchase. I was thinking, I'm spending 250 nuts on a graphics card. I'm going to buy a cheap case.
But the new case that you've got as well, a bit more airflow, a few more case fans in there as well. It all kind of helps. I mean,
it doesn't have any more case fans as stock. My old one had a sort of outgoing case fan at the back. The setup I had, I've got
like a 120 case fan or something like that.
Yeah, well, I've got a fan on the motherboard's heatsink blown back over into the exhaust fan on the back of it, which pulls it out. So I took that and moved it into the new case, and the new case has a front-mounted fan. So I've sort of got a flow going, pulling cool air through the front, pushing it out the back. It's on legs as well, and it's got grates at the side and bottom, so it pushes out the bottom and the side as well.
Do they have any kind of like filters on or anything like that? The grates?
No, they don't.
That's well worth an investment in. You would benefit from that. I've noticed the difference between that, because the case I've got, if you look, sorry, this is going to be very boring listening for you while I crawl under the desk, but if you look, there's a very fine mesh.
Yes, I can see it.
Not there, not on the top panel there, which I need to get some. But yeah, there's stuff at the top.
Stop the dust from getting pulled in.
Yeah, and yours is the same as mine. Sits on a carpet. You've got cats. It would be well worth your investment.
The amount of dust that I did a big clean out of the old PC a little while ago and pulled a ball of dust out at the size of my fist once I'd finished cleaning all the fans.
Even after like a few days, I can tell this is like getting dusty. Like the filters, you can see dust getting caught on the outside like a film.
Well, you used to work in PC World, and you said people would bring their computer in.
Yeah.
It's not working, and at 9 times out of 10, it was just clogged full of dust. Fans,
9 times out of 10, all you needed was the old
liquid air.
Liquid
air.
Yeah, just
the old compressed air.
Yeah, just like pour a shitload of liquid in. But yeah, compressed air. 9 times out of 10, there were some PCs I saw, without exaggerating, had like 4 inches of dust sitting solid. It was like loft insulation sitting at the bottom of that PC. Sometimes you couldn't even see like the bloody components. It was that clogged, and they were like, "Oh, well, it's not working." Like it sat there for 10 years, and then yesterday it stopped working. It's like, because it's more dust than PC now. Right? Like, have you seen this? Be like collecting it all in a bag to show them. It's like, have you seen what's came out of your frigging computer?
It was much the same again when I transferred the case. Even though I thought I'd got most of the dust a while back, I didn't have any compressed air. I was in the fans with little cotton buds, the earbuds. I was in the fans scraping the dust out of there.
In most aspects of my life, I'm a messy bastard. You know what I'm like? I've got the big beard. I tend to just drop food in it. That stays there for a while. None of my clothes tend to be clean. My PC though, I'm taking very good care of. At least once a month, usually even less than that. It comes apart. Everything gets dusted out. Everything gets cleaned. Everything gets put back together. And it does make the difference. I've noticed that like I can knock, even just like once a month, I can knock 5 to 10 degrees off its standing temperature, just clearing out those filters. It's unbelievable the difference it can make.
Maintenance is something that a lot of people overlook.
I quite enjoy doing it. There's a zen quality to just
really
doing it.
Moving it into the new case, I really enjoyed just taking it apart and putting it back together again. It was real fun, real like nerdy man's work.
It's good fun. But it's definitely worth doing. But as a good suggestion, and I would say this to any viewers that want to take care of their PC, if they don't have any kind of like filters, you'll have vents on the sides, you might have vents on the top or the front. If they don't have filters on, and you're sitting in a room that collects dust, it's well worth doing. And I mean, you can pick up like very fine grained stuff.
Well, I probably
and just
will.
attach it to the inside. Well worth doing.
It's a work in progress. The 970 was just the first part of my upgrade, and eventually I'm going to have a completely new PC in that case, and I'm going to rebuild the old PC in the old case as I get new components coming in.
So that'll become a new sort of media centre in the bedroom or something like that, or a spare office one or something.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, because it's still
good.
Even with the 580 in it, it's still capable of running modern games. Just drop the settings down a little bit. Not even that much, to be perfectly honest. It was running stuff pretty well. Just not as good as a snob like me would like. But your graphics are better than mine. I need more graphics.
You see, I mean, that's the thing. Ultimately, for me, it's more about enthusiasm, and it's more about having fun with it.
Yeah, it's what it's worth to you.
Yeah,
I love it. I love a tinker.
The only. Aye.
And his name's John.
Aye, less said about that the better. But for me, what it comes down to is like the only thing that I really pride myself on. I play a lot of the Total War games. I don't like the term unit size below Ultra. Don't really care how they look, but they need to be the biggest amounts of troops on the battlefield that my computer can handle. That's all that really matters to us. If you remember, when you first got your, the machine that you're using now, when you first got that, it was not long after Shogun 2 came out. And
yes, I remember.
My computer was crashing every like half hour when I was playing it. I couldn't work out what was happening. Turned out there was like remnants of an old driver on there. Because I'd went out to buy myself the new graphics card, the 75 series, just to give myself a few extra FPS. And I went around to yours, and you were playing it maxed, and I was just, we're saying PC Master Race, and it's all fun. I wished harm on you when I saw how beautiful it looked on your big telly, silky smooth frames, completely maxed out, and then I was coming home and like fucking trundling along at about 20 frames per second with stuff turned down like medium to low. And then it would crash on us halfway through a battle in any event.
Bless.
So that was kind of like, that set the seed for, in about 6 years' time, I'm going to go out and spend nearly $2,000 on a new PC. But yeah, I mean, this bastard runs a tele fully maxed out, 40 unit battles on either side.
If I had the kind of money that you did lying around, if I had been in saving mode, I might have bought an entirely new rig. But as it is, little upgrades over a long period of time, I'll get to where I need to be.
No, I think there's a certain satisfaction to doing that as well, to seeing those incremental steps, and somebody just goes, there you go, new toy, and it's flying. I used to like that satisfaction of the old machine, it's chugging along, put the new graphics card in, and it doesn't make it something that's utterly amazing and cutting edge, but it's suddenly you get this extra lease of life out your machine. That's nice, I think that's got a good sense of sort of self-satisfaction. Pick that part, put that part in myself, that makes it better, and I can physically see that difference. It's cool.
Shall we segue on to our next item? Our next item is multiplayer reminiscent, but let's take a long route to get there.
Aye.
Let's go the scenic route. I wanted a new game when I bought my new graphics card.
As you do, you want to test it, you want to push it.
But I didn't really buy a brand new game. I went onto Steam and I was looking around, and I think I buy too many games because I couldn't find any game on Steam that really grabbed me that I didn't already have. But I didn't fancy playing the games that I already had. So for the first time in years, I booted up EA Origin.
Shocking.
EA Origin. Booted it up and needed an upgrade, which took ages. It seems that the download speeds on Origin seem to bottleneck quite badly compared to Steam.
You've got super fast.
I do have like fast fibre optic, and I say bottleneck. I was getting 2 megasec, and that's low for me. 2 megabytes a second, and I was frustrated that it was going to take that long. But in true EA fashion, after the update had completed, it crashed my computer. Hard crash, had to reset the damn thing, but finally got in and ended up buying Titanfall.
Aye, which is a couple of years old now, nearly.
I think it's only just over a year old.
Over a year.
Maybe not even a year old, actually. It was 2014 it was released, but I'm not sure when in 2014.
It was one of the big, hotly anticipated titles for the new batch of consoles coming out, wasn't it, really?
But it was $14.99 on the Origin store, and that includes the 3 DLC packs that have come out. And I thought, what, for £15, can't really go too wrong.
Yeah.
It's the first EA game I've bought since Mass Effect 3.
Aye, and was that... What do you want to explain why that was? Why your story with EA and why you suddenly stopped buying the games?
I fell out with EA big style because I thought their DLC policy was a load of shit.
Yeah.
And I thought they were taking gaming in a terrible direction. I don't know, what are some notable examples? Kingdoms of Amalur was a notable example, I suppose, because that released with day one single player DLC that was essentially an entire campaign path that had been
you downloaded, you had it installed, it was there.
That had been cut out of the game. It's not something that was developed after the game had been made and then sold as an extra. It was like, you pre-order, you pay the premium pre-order price, and you get this mission. Sorry, not even a mission, like I say, the whole sort of side quest campaign, and they were doing that with a lot of things.
I mean, a lot of companies as well, to some extent, maybe jumped on that kind of bandwagon or kind of learned the lesson from it. But a lot of people do that. I mean, I mentioned Total War, and there's been controversy around Total War with Attila, and it's interesting now. I'm probably, and I've said this before, I'm probably a bit more of an apologist of companies doing that. Like, I don't like it, but I think nobody puts a gun to your head and says you've got to buy this. I don't like the fact that it's there, or the idea that I've already downloaded this, and I come on day one DLC, you buy it and the upload is like 2 kilobytes, or the download's 2 kilobytes, and it's like, so it's already sitting on my machine here. This isn't something you've worked on as an additional thing, and that's happened with Total War. I mean, in the first month of Total War, all of a sudden there's like five DLCs, and there was a huge backlash by the community. Interestingly enough, I think there's talk of something coming out for Attila at some point soon, but they've just stopped bringing out the DLCs. And me as a consumer, it's like, you know what? I'd fucking buy them. Like, if you brought them out, if you bring them out, I will pay for them. Like, yeah, I've got, I'm not saying, I'm unscrupulous or anything, but if there's certain games, if EA want to bring out these culture packs, don't agree with what they're doing, but you know what? Fucking pay for them. I'll buy them. So actually, I'm sitting on the other side of the fence where it's like, well, I don't really agree with this, but for some games, I would buy those. And the fact that maybe they've had a backlash against that means that they went very quiet on that front. All that means is I'm missing out on maybe extra factions or new campaigns that I could be playing in that game, And Attila, it's been out a few months now. I think about 3 or 4 months, and I've got way less time in that game than I should have done by now.
I bought it, and I've never played it, you know.
Any Total War title. I was hoping at the land we might get a couple of games done if you've got it.
Yeah, sure.
Play a couple of 2-player games, but I don't want to kind of sidetrack. I know you were talking about EA and talking about Titanfall and some of those kind of practices, but it's just an interesting one worth pointing out.
Dead Space 3 had effectively microtransactions in a single player game that you paid 40-50 quid for if you bought it on release day.
Aye.
Oh, here's 50 quid. Or if you want to buy more ammo, it's going to cost you $2.99. I remember there was you could buy more ammo.
They did end up taking that out, I think. After again a huge like community backlash. What are you doing?
They did that mobile game strategy where they basically said all EA mobile games will be free to play with microtransactions. Aye. The fucking ruined Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah, that was a big piss off for me because we both played that a lot. You even more so than me, but cherished game from our youth, and then saw what happened to it.
And do you know what? When I was working for the website as a games journalist, I can say that now because I don't think I'm ever going to go back with. But they fucking treat the press like shit as well. Pretending that you haven't made an appointment. Oh no, sorry, I've got no record of your appointment. Every fucking year at Gamescom, we had to talk our way in, despite the fact we'd been in touch with that PR, we'd made appointments, and you get in, it's like a meat farm and
holy shit, we've got whistleblowing going on here about practices.
Yeah, I was in a fucking Need for Speed.
That was in Cologne as well. You'd shipped out to Germany for that.
I remember I went with Need for Speed game, and they had some guys, like some of the demo staff, and one of the guys was they were all in a room, and we all got put up the computer. I think it was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, or no, it wasn't. Sorry, it was Need for Speed Most Wanted. It was a little bit further back than that, and we're all driving around having a bit of fun, cops and robbers type bollocks, you know. And there was one guy who was like, "Oh, how do I put it into third person mode? I prefer to drive in third person mode." No, you don't want to go in third person mode. You've got to stay in first person mode. The game's designed to be played in first person mode. And the fucking guy had a real go at this dude who just wanted to ask a fucking simple question. Fucking arrogance. Never mind. That's neither here nor there.
What we wanted to do though was kind of touch on. You got Titanfall, and you were kind of thinking
it's the first multiplayer game that I've bought in a long time.
You wanted a testing machine, but you were also thinking LAN's coming up. Maybe it would be a good multiplayer.
And Titanfall's got LAN on it apparently. And you know what? EA, they don't seem to have been as bad these days with the recent games. And they've got The Sims, which is a DLC fest, but it's always been a DLC fest.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Sims is basically a vehicle for expansion packs. Yeah.
But they seem to have made little baby steps in a better direction. The prices on Origin are a lot more reasonable than they used to be.
Yeah, it used to be more expensive to buy something on Origin than it did to just walk down the road and go to a shop and buy it.
You can get good stuff now, and although it's a bit of a sort of like cheap trick, they're giving away some of the older games for free every now and again.
I mentioned I picked up Theme Hospital, which has now suddenly started crashing very quickly, all of a sudden, for no apparent reason.
That's probably your hardware's too up to date for such an old game.
It was working fine now, and my missus loves it. That was my peace offering to her when I spent all of my cash on this thing. Syndicate, a few weeks ago, picked up Syndicate for free on Origin.
Well, there you go. So it's been a few years, so I'm giving them another chance, basically. And Titanfall, it was good value, and you know what? I thought it's time. But yeah, first multiplayer game I've picked up in a while. I haven't even played it yet. I only bought it yesterday.
It's worth kind of pointing out. I mean, and sure enough, I'm sure we'll talk about that maybe post LAN, or we'll get a chance to hopefully play it. I might pick it up just so we can play it together. You know.
Well, like I say, it is LANable. So
actually, speaking
not common to have LAN games these days.
EA. Speaking of EA games, a game that we played a shitload of was Battlefield 2 Bad Company.
Battlefield Bad Company.
We spent got to be about 100 hours playing that thing. We were on that constantly.
We said earlier that I'm not a completionist. I don't chase trophies, but I got the platinum trophy on Battlefield Bad Company 2.
I remember you spending endless hours trying to. You had to kill somebody with explosives. Was it?
You had to kill like a certain number of people in one mission by collapsing buildings on them. Again, this is why some achievements don't really fit into the spirit of games. I'm in multiplayer games where it's all team based, and I'm running around like a dickhead, just blowing buildings up randomly, not contributing anything towards my team.
Just trying to get enough buildings down.
It took me hours to get that, but it was the last one I had to do. Jesus. Yeah, we played loads of that. I got into a crowd on the Amazon forums. The Amazon have got some forums hidden away, and they've got a games forum which I don't go to anymore. But it was a really nice place. loads of cool people. I got in with a bunch of them guys who, you know, sadly I don't really talk to them anymore. I've kind of fallen out in touch with them, but we used to play Battlefield together, have some great times. You used to jump on. We had some epic games, especially on the Vietnam expansion. That was brilliant.
Oh, that was
I remember one particular level where me and you led the charge.
Aye.
And we were at the front line of our whole team.
I used to play like support a lot.
Yeah. We did so well that I'd run out of ammo.
Aye.
But we weren't on comms.
Aye.
So I ran out and got myself killed. And you were playing a medic, so you revived me.
Being a good support, it's what support
but
does.
I had no ammo, so I got myself killed again, and you just kept reviving me. Gonzo, man, you're killing my kill-to-death ratio. Yeah, but I mean,
but yeah, that was fantastic.
Again, that was the first game in a long time that we got into multiplayer. But you remember, like back in the day when we were kids.
I would go as far as to say Battlefield 2 Bad Company is probably the thing that got us back into multiplayer games since we were kids at school. And some of those games we played, usually 4-player co-op, N64 at your house.
Yeah.
Playing some of those like Mario Kart, playing GoldenEye as well.
GoldenEye, Perfect Dark.
Aye.
I loved the games of GoldenEye that we had. We used to come round to my house, as you say.
We had our own language and terminology for stuff that was happening in the game.
You sort of build your own culture.
Yeah, and like your own little catchphrases, your own like sort of insults for each other when people are doing certain things in the game.
Couch gaming, eh? I do miss couch gaming.
It's one thing that I think console games really do still have that kind of market for. Like, don't get us wrong, LAN gaming and, you know, the proliferation of just being able to load up a game. It's got multiplayer and hot online, good voice communications, that's great, but there's just something nice about sitting down on a couch with a controller in your hand with a bunch of mates and, you know, having like a drink or something to eat or something, playing around, and then just being able to like physically smack each other when like people are like being a bit underhanded or getting ahead of themselves.
Back in the olden days, we were too young to have beers at the time when we were playing GoldenEye, but we did have the espresso machine, if you remember.
Yeah, I used to get absolutely hyper on coffee.
Hyper on coffee, stay up all night playing Hunt the Baron on GoldenEye.
Yeah, that was the archives mission.
You played the archives where you had the upstairs and the downstairs. Yeah. You put on handicaps, 3 players with -10 who died in one shot. Hit. Apart from the club. The club was such a shit gun that it took 2 kills to kill someone who was on -10 health. And then you had the Baron downstairs. He wasn't allowed upstairs.
Yeah, he had to hide in the basement.
Yeah, he had +10 health, and you'd get together, 3 players, and then you'd go and you'd hunt the Baron, and whoever killed the Baron got to be the Baron in the next game.
Yeah, and that was brilliant.
And
fun.
no one was allowed to be Oddjob.
Aye, no, it was brilliant.
That's why it was the Baron as well. You picked the Baron because if you were really skillful, you could pick the Baron down on -10 health. Because technically he had a huge headshot hitbox.
Yeah,
because his hat counted as his head.
His big top hat counted as a headshot.
Baron Samedi. Oh,
with
God,
his massive forehead.
And then I carried that over into uni. We had the N64, very retro. But we had the N64 in uni, and we used to play Perfect Dark all the time. And we used to have the best games because we used to play 4-player co-op against perfect bots. And would find a place to hold out. We'd set up all the mines and the laptop guns, and we'd just hold out on wave after wave of bots. But we were all shit houses, and we'd all be like lining up the next opportunity to kill all your teammates. So you'd be scoping them out, waiting until their backs were turned. Someone would be looking at your screen, they'd spot that you had the crosshair on them. Even if you just hovered over them for a second, he's aiming at me, they'd turn around, they'd shoot you. Everyone, the place would erupt. Everyone would die apart from one guy who'd be the last man standing. Then the perfect bots would just run in and wipe the floor, and you'd start again from scratch. Fucking brilliant times.
I mean, that's it. I mean, sometimes I think it's something that gets lost a little bit with like online gaming. Like, yeah, you can still communicate, but there's something about the physical presence of people being there, physically watching their reactions. Because let's be honest, you play like an online game now, you jump in, you kill some people. If you've killed them a bunch, or you do something particularly flashy that kills them, basically they just shout racial abuse at you over the internet. Well, you know, that doesn't really do much for us, frankly. You know, like that kind of like that side of online gaming I'm not a big fan of. What I do like though is watching my mates shouting horrible things at us when they're sitting right next to us, because I can watch them turn red, I can watch their veins stick out on their head.
The best thing is you can bitch slap them as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it like turns into like, yeah, right, that's it, and then yeah, on the floor wrestling each other, choking each other out. You know, that's part of the fun, party atmosphere. I'm
gonna have to give a shout out to Chris Lord in this video as the best GoldenEye player in our
probably
group.
Still is. We should have like put him in like MLG or one of the one of those major leagues.
The guy was so hardcore. He knew. Not only did he know every spawn point, but he knew the order of the spawn points.
Yeah.
So as soon as somebody died, He knew where they would be respawning. He'd get there before they had a chance to pick up the gun, glute them onto the next spawn point.
We used to throw so much abuse at him because he was that good at it. We couldn't just say like he was that good at the time, you know. It's just like,
well, that was one of our rules that was constantly broken. The unarmed man rule: never shoot an unarmed man. Unarmed man, unarmed man. And then you chop them when they had the back turned.
But you felt good when you got one over on them, you know. You pulled out like your SMG or something, a P90, and just like hosed them. It's like, yeah, that feels pretty good.
Yeah, one Chris kill was worth like 10 regular kills.
We're playing Hunt the Baron. Chris is not allowed to be the Baron. Even if he wins, he's still not the Baron.
It's amazing that we had such good fun, even though we pretty much lost every game.
Yeah, but no, I mean,
my trick was pulling the pins on grenades and running towards people.
I used to do the old sort of suicide
shot. It was a good game if I ended up 0 for 0 in terms of the kill to death ratio, because you got -1 point if you got a suicide. So if I ended up on 0, it meant I'd taken at least one person out of me every time I did the trick. But it was brilliant because you'd fire off a couple of shots, and then when you realised you weren't going to get me in time, you'd turn around and leg it.
Aye.
Oh, I felt the power then.
Oh no, I mean, fantastic game, like really, really enjoyed it. And I suppose like multiplayer gaming in general, the only thing that I can think sort of recent times that's really kind of captured that kind of similar kind of spirit, even though it's like we've both played it separately over the internet, has been the Mount and Blade Warband Napoleonic Wars expansion.
Yeah,
that was fun. We've had some really, really good times playing that as well. Actually, at the last LAN you were at, hungover, you were playing it down there.
It was all I could face. I couldn't face a fast-paced game, but you know, you're firing muskets that take 30 seconds to reload and miss 9 shots out of 10. But we weren't even doing that. You had the drums and I had a flute. And
we set up a little free-form jazz band.
We were just walking along the battlements, playing music, getting people to dance along.
That's the awesome thing about that game. That has a positive effect on your troops. It makes them more accurate, or it makes them better at close combat, or it makes them get a buff to their reload.
It just makes them happier as well.
And people love it. That's it. People in that game, people respond to you. See people dancing. They're doing the little crouch dance. You know, as you're starting to do it. Or people start jumping up and down. People absolutely fucking love a fifer or a drummer in that game. Absolutely perfect. And you know, for me, it's a great game. I like the pacing of it. I do like that fact that it's like stop, reload. It gets annoying if you're trying to charge a breach and people are just like stopping to reload their guns and trying
instead of going in and getting the bayonets out.
Exactly, and like they're trying to outsnipe the enemy, and it's like you ain't got the weapons to be doing what you're doing. Like this isn't Battlefield or Call of Duty, or it's not a game where you've got accurate rapid fire weapons. You fire your shot and then you get in there and start biffing them up, you know. And it's just brilliant if you're on a team that understand that and actually listen to that and the plan. Right, everybody charge.
Yeah, there's people coordinating. Maybe you even join in with a proper regiment. You've got them on your team. You can join the firing line. It's at its best. That's one of the best games I've ever played.
I love Mount and Blade, and I pride myself that I got into Mount and Blade when it was like version alpha 0.2. It came on an old PC Gamer magazine disc of demos. And I picked it up and started playing it from there. And it was the first, like now, I mean, kind of early access and watching games through alpha development's kind of the norm. It's kind of accepted through Steam. Back then, going on to the Tailworlds forum and watching as these updates came out, I played it. The demo was great. The demo had basically the full game as it was at the time, but you could only level up to level 6. But you could still do everything in it. But watching the game as it kind of developed, and then I remember that when the game came out, and it was like almost being moved to tears, like about 9 months to a year later, it's like, fuck, they've finished this thing. Like, I followed it all the way through. Way back before this like alpha development kind of thing, early access kind of development really became popularised, you know.
I remember you showing me it when it was still in development. I came over and you said, "Oh, look at this," and you showed us the game.
Like a Turkish
I nodded and smiled and said, "Yeah, it looks really good."
It was like a Turkish guy and his wife, like the two of them just working out this game, and it's like, what's this? And it was amazing.
Yeah, truthfully, when you showed me it, I thought it looked like dog shit. I thought, this looks terrible. The graphics are poor, the action looks awful, it looks like there's no skill, it looks like hacky and slashy.
As soon as you start playing it.
Got hundreds of hours in Warband now. Set myself, I even had my own little kingdom and everything. It was an absolute travesty.
And of course, I mean, that's it, Warband's out. I know that Bannerlord, they've went very quiet on that front, but Bannerlord, that's Mount and Blade 2, that's still being worked on. That's a game I'll be picking up as soon as that comes out. I'll be there for it. We played a load of Napoleonic Warband, and you know, it's definitely something I think in the next couple of weeks at that LAN I want to pick up again. I'm going to see if anybody else is on with it.
Always installed on my PC.
Same here. It's there. I've always had Mountain Blade installed on a PC.
Now it's not a LANable game, which means we will have to use the internet. But luckily, I mean the internet's not great at LAN because there's a lot of people piggybacking on it. But luckily, you don't need that brilliant a connection in order to get away with a decent game.
Last time we didn't have any kind of issues.
Nah, it was fine, wasn't it?
So I can't see that being any kind of issue. Other thing, though, that I was going to pick up, which I didn't mention, did you get the Viking Conquest expansion?
I didn't. I thought about it. It looked very buggy, and I thought the ship-to-ship combat didn't look very good. It looked too crowded to actually skillfully fight to me.
It was shaky as fuck when it first came out. And a lot of people were absolutely fine with it, but I had some crazy bugs when it came out. This was on the old machine as well. I was so excited for it, and I know basically it's a paid-for version of Brettonwalder, which was an amazing mod. And you know the mods that exist for Mountain Blade, because it's been around for a long time.
Well, the Napoleonic Warfare was an unofficial mod originally, and then they brought it in as an official mod.
Shot and Steel or something like that. I forget what it was called.
Forget.
Yeah, but. Yeah, and actually, when it first came out, like I was getting things like the game would crash constantly. You were lucky if you could get onto the map screen. Issues with the campaign. It's still got issues where there's like ridiculous typos, and that just makes it feel a bit kind of amateurish, like in some of the dialogue. But actually, this past weekend, I played quite a few hours of it. First time I've sat down and properly started getting into the campaign, and you know what? It's amazing. Really, really enjoying it. The ship-to-ship stuff. I see where you're coming from, but it kind of works because of the weapons that you've got. You're mainly using big shields and short, like axes. Even like a long sword isn't particularly long. So it encourages people to form like a shield wall. You need to stand in a shield wall and fight over the top of it. So it kind of works, and it's definitely one that's worth checking out, I'd reckon. I'm really getting a lot out of it. Not really so much in the way of cavalry either. You know, cavalry always ruled in Mountain Blade. It was always about the couch lance and charging. That's not really a thing in here because you can get ponies. I think if you get really high level, you can ride an ox, but you cannot really ride. Like, there's no warhorse. There's no warhorses. There's no big chargers with couch lances because it's before that time. So really, it's guys on foot with axes, or if you're lucky, you might have a spear or something like that for a bit of range. Really, really enjoying playing it though. So that's something that if you haven't got it, I don't know how much it'll cost. It might be worth picking up. I'll make you a deal. If you pick that up, I'll pick Titanfall up.
Alright, deal.
Yeah. We'll
shake on it.
We'll shake on that.
Lovely.
And I think that's definitely worth checking into. Really, really good fun. When it first came out, I was getting things like there was face textures on the ground of farmland. So you'd like walk into a farm and the level would load up and the ground was just heads. Just head textures spread across the ground. It's like, Jesus Christ, he's been out in the woods eating mushrooms or something. Like, he's just tripping his nuts off. And then the game would crash.
How bizarre.
Terrible. And they've released a couple of patches, and apparently there's some big expansion coming soon with a completely new standalone campaign and a lot of other bits and pieces. So even though it got off to a really shaky start from my side of things, I've liked what they've done with it. The new PC runs it like a dream. Really enjoy playing it, and I haven't gotten a chance yet to try its multiplayer, and I'd like to do that at least with somebody who I'd feel quite privileged to have standing with us in a shield wall. So we need to jump.
Fair enough. I'll warn you, I was never very good at the combat in Mountain Blade, and I had to turn the difficulty down
it's
when I was playing the single player.
I'm not a good player by any stretch of the imagination either.
Well, there we go. There's a couple of recommendations for people there, and you know, not necessarily the brand new stuff, but stuff you should definitely look out for if you'd missed it. Mountain Blade Warband and Mountain Blade Viking Conquest, specifically. If you get Warband, get your hands on that Napoleonic Wars.
You need to. It's multiplayer only, but Christ,
it is multiplayer only, and in terms of the community, it's quite small nowadays, but it's a brilliant community, and you don't need to be mega skilled to get in, make a difference, and enjoy yourself. There's always a couple of full servers on Siege mode, which is arguably the best mode to play with. Yeah, fantastic. Get that. Get Viking Conquest. If Gonzo recommends it, I recommend it.
Aye, it's well worth checking out.
We've got one last thing to cover. It's been quite a long podcast, this one. I think we kind of segued down memory lane a fair bit.
We'll go on tangents.
It's easy to do. But the last one is hatred stroke controversy.
Aye, it's an awkward one to bring up, but just
You've
because
written hatred. Is it hatred or is it hated?
No,
Oh,
it's hatred. Aye, I think it's an interesting one because I think.
Well, let's give a bit of background into what it is in case nobody knows it. So,
I mean, let's be honest, hype train on this one's quite.
The hype train has been. So, hatred is a game by an indie developer whose name I forget and don't care to popularise. We're talking about it, even though I.
You really don't want to.
I said to Gonzo beforehand, he said we should talk about it because it's kind of a big deal, and I said I don't really want to give them any publicity because I think it looks like a shit game. Hatred is a twin stick shooter kind of top down game, which is basically you're a guy who is a bit of a dick and decides to go on a killing spree, and it doesn't really have anything behind it other than
it's like senseless violence. Basically, just
that is what it is.
The
that is in fact the whole concept behind it. That it's completely senseless, unjustified violence. You go out and you start murdering civilians and you fight cops, and it is brutal, vicious.
Yeah. You get your health back by executing wounded people.
Mm-hmm.
So it encourages that kind of.
I watched the trailer in it, and there's like women on the floor, shot, begging for their lives, and he blows their brains out while spouting some sort of crappy shit one-liner.
Yeah,
but
it's. I think it ties back into one of the podcasts that we did a few weeks ago, which is that kind of idea of like people leveled criticism at the likes of Mortal Kombat. And said, well, there's violence, and certainly I think to put the platform out, I don't particularly like the look of Hatred, but I'm not naive enough to think that something like Hatred encourages or glamorises it. Like, I don't think what really concerns us about this is something, some sort of horrible atrocity, the likes of Columbine or Dunblane, one of these horrible real world incidents where somebody goes apeshit and kills a bunch of people.
And they'll find out that they've been playing
They'll
Hatred.
find out he's got like 100 hours in Hatred, and I'm not saying there's any link between them. I'm not saying that because when something like that happens, some sort of atrocity, some sort of tragedy happens, because they played that game, it then led to that.
I think there is a causal link, but it's the other way around. I think that you can play... I think that playing a video game doesn't have a causal link to... Or playing a violent video game doesn't have a causal link to while you're going out and committing violence. But I think a person with a propensity to commit violence
could maybe enact their fantasies on pixels rather than people, maybe.
Well, I play violent video games, not Hatred, but I play violent video games. I don't have any impulse.
I do some horrible shit on video games, yeah.
But somebody who is predisposed to violence will therefore probably enjoy violent video games.
Yeah.
So somebody who is capable of going out and massacring a fucking whole bunch of people probably would buy a game like Hatred because it sort of fits them.
But then there's a lot of people will just go out and pick it up, play it, and go, yeah, I'm enjoying this, or I'm not enjoying this, and
I think
quite happy
the idea that a fair few people are going out and buying Hatred and think I'm enjoying this is probably quite slim. Hatred's entire publicity campaign has been on the fact that it is so controversial, and it's been very successful.
It's a very, very
regard.
good campaign in that sense.
Steam pulled it initially. They said they weren't going to host it on their store, and of course there was big media coverage because of that. And then Steam ended up putting it back on, and there was big media coverage because of that.
Just as it came out, Twitch suddenly announced R-rated games are banned, of which Hatred is.
Then
that is basically the R-rated game,
which then pushed it back into the limelight. Obviously, the fact that it was so ultra-violent in the first place meant it was getting press coverage.
Yeah.
GOG.com said they weren't going to stock it. They didn't say why, but immediately press coverage. Oh, it's because of this. The developer's been very good at leaping on board, saying, "Oh, GOG.com aren't supporting it. That's clearly because of this," even though they never said it was that. GameSpot did a review of it and apparently criticised it mainly based on its nature rather than its gameplay, and the developer immediately got on board and had a good shout out about that. The GameSpot review I think got pulled because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the hype has been around the content
rather than actually what's it like as a game.
And from what I've heard about the gameplay, which is exactly what I expected from seeing gameplay footage of it. And you know what, I got suckered in. I had no interest in the game, but I looked at it because of all the hype. Never considered buying it. But from what I've heard about it, from the few reviews that I have read, it's shit. It's like, well, not so much shit, but it's bog standard 10 a penny twin stick shooter, and it's just the theme that's
just
different.
Ultra violent dark theme.
And it really bugs me that it's doing well because
It's I think
it's violent and
I checked
shocking.
last night, which would be like Monday night here. At time of recording,
like 2 or 3 on the best sellers.
Yeah, well, I think it was 4 when I checked before I went to bed last night.
Pisses me off.
Well, I think there's probably, I don't want to say like more deserving games, and personally I don't want to like sort of like, I don't want to hate on Hatred because I haven't played it, I haven't really looked into it that much because it just didn't particularly interest us, as a concept, and it's not like saying I'm anti-violence or I don't agree with its message or its content. It's not that in the slightest. It looked very sort of not mediocre, but it just looked very kind of run of the mill. It just looked like, oh well, there's a game that you could play.
You see, I will hate on Hatred because I think it's going to harm the industry because once again it's going to make gamers as a collective.
We can
group
guarantee Loose Women or one of these topical programs on TV is going to show a clip of it and go, isn't video gaming as an industry or as a hobby very harmful or dangerous,
and it's going to do that. It's going to make gamers look immature. It's going to make it more difficult to bring out proper mature rated content with a message.
Yeah,
that's mature rated content without a message. It speaks volumes in its nothingness.
The mindless violence side of things.
I'm finding it really hard to put into words, but I just think it's a fucking money making scheme, and the thing that pisses me off the most is that it's worked.
Well, I think the thing is, there's always been controversial games. There's always games that have caused controversy in the past, some of which that controversy has been very good for them, some of the time it's been very bad for them. I mean, if we look at the original Grand Theft Auto coming out, the old top-down thing that came out, it's debated in Parliament, and like, oh god, is this going to warp a nation of children?
At least I had good gameplay behind it. And everything about Grand Theft Auto has always been tongue-in-cheek. Satire, poking fun at itself, even in like the early days when you had nothing but like a bit of text on the screen giving you the dialogue. It was all cheesy, tongue-in-cheek, funny songs on the radio, taking the piss out of violent culture rather than endorsing it.
The parallel for me is, and I've seen a few people have said it, it's like, well, it's kind of like a modern day Postal 2, but it's not. Because Postal 2 actually was very much that kind of like, it wore its heart on its sleeve for being very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, it was
like,
very self-aware.
Very self-aware, very kind of dark-humoured, but it was basically, it was that message that was behind it in terms of like, that kind of the mundane turning into the extreme, and that kind of idea of just somebody's trying to go about their daily business and they're getting shit on, and then they end up literally gone postal, literally and figuratively gone postal, and it wore that message very upfront and did it in a very kind of funny way. And the thing that gets us with Hatred is it's being done without any of that humour, without any of that kind of sense of self-awareness. It's just, there's the violence, and that's what I don't particularly like, mainly because I think it makes gaming as a hobby or as an industry, if you want to term it as such, but from where I sit, as a hobby, it just makes it that the next time some horrible tragedy happens, the finger gets pointed at Hatred, and then people who play games and wear black clothes are considered to all be potential.
But the finger doesn't just get pointed at Hatred; it
ridiculous.
gets pointed at video games.
Yeah,
and you know what we could do with trying to break that stereotype, regardless of whether you consider it true or not.
You can do that by being nice, I suppose. Is the way to do it. Be nice, upstanding people.
I'm not saying everything has to be Super Mario. Or Super Mario Brothers is quite violent. All those mushrooms and turtles. That
stamping on turtles is a bit harsh.
You think about it, Paperboy didn't have much of a message other than smashing windows and killing dogs and knocking people over.
But yeah, I think ultimately that's for me that becomes the kind of the point. It's just really. The game is what it is, and that's certainly, that it's our opinions, and if people enjoy playing it, good for them. It comes back to what we're saying about the PC Master Race thing. It's like you might have different opinions, and you might enjoy things that we wouldn't enjoy, and that is something that you don't need to defend or validate. That's your opinion, and other people have their opinions. What's important, I think, is that people actually understand that differences don't mean... It's not strictly a case of being black and white and saying that because I think this, it's right, and if you think that, you're wrong, and therefore, subservient or lesser.
Look at you, the voice of tolerance. I have laid a lot of personal dislike on that game, and you're right. If people get something out of it,
if people enjoy playing it, good for them. It's not.
If people enjoy playing it, good for them. I don't think many people will enjoy playing it. That's the issue. I don't think it's a game that's been made very well. I don't think they even tried to make it very well. I think it was charted out on the basis of its content rather than its gameplay. If I'm wrong about that, if time proves me wrong, if the people who've bought it do end up really liking it, then fair play.
It's realistically, it's going to end up with like 1 million comedy reviews on Steam. You're going to have just funny, but quite bad taste, funny reviews appearing underneath it, and people will vote it up, and it'll end up with an extremely positive rating, and nobody talking about, is it a fun game? And that's quite sad, really.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would like to do, actually, and it's something, again, every time we do one of these podcasts, I always mean to do it and never do. We're supposed to engage our audience. This is for good YouTubing and good podcasts. We're supposed to be asking our opinions, our viewers of their opinions. So let's do a quick recap here. So far, we've talked about Batman Arkham Knight.
Yep.
We've talked about the Batman series. We'd love to hear if you're watching this video, you've got some experience of playing them, you're thinking about Arkham Knight. What do you reckon?
What did you think of Origins compared to the rest of the series? Do you agree that it was a bit of a step back? Are you looking forward to see Rocksteady come back and take the reins for this one?
Yeah, PC.
What will you be playing it on? Will you be playing it on PC? Will you be getting it on a console?
And in terms of PC Master Race, if you want to list your specs, you can. Probably not particularly of interest, but if you've got any thoughts or opinions about anything that we've talked about in terms of some of the PC updates, some of my thoughts on that, that's cool. I'd be really interested to see people's take on Hatred, and I probably don't want to open that one up because that could be a proper can of worms, depending on what people say. But
that's fine. What? Everyone's opinion is as valid as ours. We're just a couple of guys sitting in a room talking shit. So
what I'd like to do, though, our comment section, I'd like to say, as far as YouTube goes, is a fairly safe place, mainly because no bastard ever visits it, but also on the other side of things as well. We've always looked at, we've got a very small but a very loyal and a very nice community, and I'd be up for debating these kind of things, seeing what people have got to say. I'd be interested to hear. Respect the
Does anyone have Hatred? Does anyone play it?
Who's
what did you think of it? Because I'm basing it purely on what I've seen and what I've heard, because I've got no real desire to buy it. Maybe you could change my mind. Maybe you could tell me it's awesome.
Aye. We'll have to wait and see on that. I think that kind of brings us to a close for the podcast, though.
It does, yeah.
It's been a long one.
It's been an emotional one.
Really has. I think we're getting sort of quite head up there. It's good. People like emotion on YouTube, is what I hear and what I read.
Yes,
various guides.
I understand that people like emotion.
Excellent enunciation. I'm going to start calling you Spock. Right, on that very note, thank you very much for listening. If you have made it to the end of this one, what are you doing with your life? No, I'm only kidding. We're very happy to have you along. But yeah, any kind of comments that you've got about any of the subjects that we've touched on, you can leave them here in the comments section. You can also find us at Gonzo Ewok on Twitter, and you can search for Gonzo Ewok on Facebook. We also have a website, which is gonzoewok.com.
Yes, it is.
There we go, I got it right. That's pretty decent.
It's just a collection of videos.
Yeah, we will get around to it. We've said it for about 2 months, but we will get around to putting some more stuff on there rather than just plugging the videos. But thank you very much for listening to the podcast, and we shall see you in the next one, or hear from you in the next one. Goodbye.
Indeed. Bye.